We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and the Inuit peoples.
Ursula Franklin Academy opened in Toronto in September 1995. In the words of Dr. Ursula Franklin, peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of justice and the absence of fear. And it is this philosophy that guides the vision of the Ursula Franklin Academy community. By focusing on learning through an anti-oppression stance, we respond to the complexity, diversity, and the beauty of the world around us. As a community, we work in unison to both better understand and shape the future by focusing on the interrelatedness of all curriculum to Ursula's areas of expertise: science, mathematics, technology, social justice, and peace activism. In doing so, we continuously develop the tools that enable us to think critically about our world and the place we want to have in it.
Okay, welcome everyone. I am Benjamin Curie-Matzner, and my fellow interviewer is John Marshall. We are conducting an interview of experts in climate change adaptation related to water.
Lauren holds a degree in environmental engineering from Dalhousie University, and she currently works as a climate resilience engineer in training at CBCL in Halifax.
My current job focuses on assessing existing and future built infrastructure and operations to identify climate risks and provide adaptation solutions to build climate resiliency. What excites me most about my career is that I'm involved in a fast-growing and evolving field which aims to protect the environment, but also the safety of Canadians and important infrastructure over the long term.
And Dana holds a degree in resource and environmental management, also from Dalhousie University.
I work as an engagement specialist for a consulting firm called Urban Systems. What I do for that firm really is I help projects like talk with the people that affect them. So for example, if we're putting a bridge over a river, we talk to the communities on either side of the river and ask them what they would need in a bridge, what they hope to see in a bridge, what concerns they might have environmentally about said bridge. I get to work on anything and everything all the time. So I really like a lot of variety in life.
And we were wondering what the main adaptations that need to be made to protect coastal communities and infrastructure from the effects of climate change.
Primary adaptation to rising sea levels and storm surge is constructing or relocating buildings and critical infrastructure assets above flood levels or outside the floodplain. Another includes constructing flood barriers such as dikes and seawalls, which create a hardline defense against incoming floodwaters. Annual damages and losses related to extreme weather events within Canada is approximately $2 billion annually, and most of this is related to flooding damages or water-related damages. So proactive adaptation investment is the most cost-effective way to protect infrastructure to climate change.
What type of adaptations do you need to consider when you develop a drought preparation strategy to withstand the effects of climate change?
It's a really good question because it is, there's a lot of parts that come into making an adaptation plan, especially when it comes to drought. Because drought is, you might know, is a creeping phenomenon. It's not like a flood where you see it coming. You don't necessarily know a drought is coming until you're already in one. So things you have to consider when making this plan are sort of, can we develop any early warning systems so to avoid being surprised by drought? Other things might be like, what would a 10-year drought mean on our infrastructure? Would the soil underneath roads dry up and would there be gaps underneath roads? Other things might be encourage people to use water differently in their yards or in their homes as well.
What mitigation strategies have been successfully implemented in recent years?
A lot of my work focuses on climate lens assessments, which are federally and provincially required assessment for large infrastructure projects. The purpose of these climate lens is to incorporate climate resiliency into design as well as identify areas where greenhouse gas emissions can be reduced and more sustainable choices selected. In addition, on the East Coast, many jurisdictions have prioritized developing and updating floodlines and hazard mapping, which incorporates climate change projections. Funding has been available to these municipalities for these types of projects, which encourages progress.
To Lauren, so you have had the opportunity to work with a number of different communities in Nova Scotia, and including First Nations communities. What knowledge have you received from them that helps you in your work?
As a whole, First Nations are extremely aware of the impacts of climate change and any changes to local climates, as their culture is extremely integrated with nature and climate. So when we're conducting assessments or modeling local terrain, their input is extremely helpful regarding historical knowledge and local impacts of climate change.
What careers do you anticipate will be available in the area of climate change adaptation in the future?
So moving forward, I believe there will be a huge opportunity for growth in careers such as climatology, geoscience, and environmental engineering. A large gap in many communities which are pursuing climate adaptation is the need for updated climate information, which incorporates climate change projections. In addition, I expect a large growth in careers such as sustainability consultants. Advice that I would give to students hoping to pursue this career is that when I first started at CBCL 3 years ago, the climate change group didn't exist. And myself and a few other people in the company have kind of created this niche group because we were passionate about climate change and climate change adaptation and mitigation. So don't be afraid to forge it for yourself. The field is continuously evolving and expanding at an exponential rate.
I think there's also a large space that often doesn't get talked about in climate change discussions is it's the people that can talk to people about climate change and about drought. And that takes a certain skill set as well of being able to communicate effectively with communities without scaring them, but also being persistent that we need to talk about this and that is important. Working effectively together is something that's really critical. Climate change can sometimes be a polarizing topic, but it shouldn't be. It's about our world, and it's about how can we make our world better as a result of what's happening, and how can we mitigate or adapt to this effectively.
So thank you so much for joining us today, Dana and Lauren. We really appreciate you guys taking the time from your busy schedules to join us for this interview.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks so much. It was so interesting. I loved the question.